think an accident involving a school bus would have changed it, but it didn't, even after it made national news. Yeah, everyone agreed the light caused the traffic to back up over the railroad track, but when the news moved on to something else, it was all but forgotten. And just like every other story you read about in newspapers or watch on TV, you never really believe it would ever happen to you. Tiny's story was a story like that. Tiny Slater. He's a friend of mine. He's a good friend, a close friend. He's one of those friends you can go without seeing for weeks, months, but as soon as we got together, it was just like we saw each other yesterday. He was always smiling, always joking. He always seemed to catch me in one of his practical jokes. The best prank he ever pulled had to be the last one he did. I was tired. I just finished a 3-week road trip. Finally made it back here to Laura's diner. Pulled my rig into the parking lot and got myself all ready for one of her famous roast beef sandwiches. I parked next to a flatbed, came inside, ringing that annoying bell over the door. I remember it because it seemed louder than usual. Of course, the diner was crowded as it was today. Anyway, I saw Tiny sitting alone in a booth and slid in across from him. Hey, Tiny, how's it going? Before he could answer, I saw it on his face. Man, what's wrong? You look like you've seen a ghost. Frank, he said, I don't know what to think. Then he asked me if I remembered that intersection, South Trail and Kirby, where that school bus got hit by the train. I told him I did, and that it was on the news. Well, he says to me, I got stopped there today, my hitch hanging over the tracks. He said he was pulling a tanker full of chemicals when he got stuck in the traffic. Now, I didn't know if he was pulling my leg or not. But when I looked into his eyes, I saw something I never saw before. Fright, or near fright. Frank, he says, when those bells were ringing and the gates coming down, I didn't know what to do. He said he looked for a way to get out of the traffic, but saw a minivan full of kids instead. He said those kids were turning around in their seats, pointing at the train and waving at him, and he didn't know what would happen. He didn't know if there was going to be an explosion, if it was going to be toxic gas, or if that stuff in his tanker would act like acid and eat a hole in the ground. All he knew was he was a goner, and probably everyone else sitting at that intersection. And then he leaned toward me and lowered his voice. I thought, well, here it comes. He caught me in another one of his jokes. But instead, he says, Frank, you know me. I ain't a religious man, but I pray. He said he prayed harder than he ever prayed before in his life. That train kept coming. He said he panicked so bad he pulled on his horn for as long and as loud as he could. He said he couldn't tell if he heard his horn or the train's, but he didn't let go. Then, right at the last minute, the guy in the car in front of him pulled off the road. He said it gave him enough room to clear the track just as the freight roared past. That ain't all. He said he eased the truck up to the guy, thinking, Mister, you don't know how many lives you just saved by doing that. And then he noticed the guy was wearing one of those backward collars, kind of priests wear. Then he says, Frank, I've been sitting here having doubts about my doubts. He said he was thanking the Lord for every good thing in his life. He said it was one reason why he was sitting here at Laura's drinking coffee and not down at Jimbo's with his shop. Then he got up saying he had to go and that he was pulling that empty flatbed this time. He said he figured it was safer. Then he left the diner. That's when Laura came up and set my lunch down and asked me if I heard about Tiny.
Did you hear about Tiny? The trooper said he didn't stand a chance. Said the train knocked his truck 50 feet before it burst into flames.
I nearly choked. What? I says. I just saw him. When I looked, Tiny was gone. So was the flatbed. About that time I realized I didn't hear that annoying bell over the door when he'd left. Laura looks at me like I lost my mind, but I have to laugh. He got me. He got me with his last prank. I'm gonna miss him. I'm gonna miss my old friend.